Welcome to Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing. What if you could learn from experienced real estate investors, find out what got them to where they are now, get insight into their daily habits, and take these insights to inspire your own growth? Each week, Jonathan Green shares an in-depth look at the mindful approach to real estate investing. Jonathan is a lifelong real estate investor, advisor, and coach, as well as the founder and team leader of Streamlined Properties. Whether you're looking to start from scratch, get to the next level, or just for a straightforward and honest approach to real estate investing, Jonathan seeks to provide a free mentorship program you can take with you anywhere. Now, here's Jonathan.
Yep, we're back at it again. Another episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing is coming at you shortly. You know how this goes in the beginning. I'm just going to give you reminders because we're really struggling with reviews. And I cannot stop the 26,000 podcast experts from connecting with me on LinkedIn telling me, you need to get up your reviews. So if you help me, then I don't have to wade through all of those fake emails and DMs with every single person who's an expert at podcasts who's never even listened to one. So that's my ask for you. I have a great show for you today with Leka Devatha, who was the co-host of BP Con in Orlando just last year. I was on a panel with her, and now we're going to talk about how to build a real estate portfolio from scratch. You're going to get her whole story from beginning to present, and it's going to inspire you. Let's go. This is episode 104 of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with my guest, Leka Devatha. Leka is the owner of Rehabit Homes, a real estate developer and broker based in Seattle. Her company focuses on residential redevelopment. She's spearheaded hundreds of transactions, developing over 50 million in real estate, probably much more now because bios are always out of date. 8 years or more of experience. She also has an event space. She's doing loans. I can't even keep up. And she was recently the co-host of the Bigger Pockets conference in Orlando, and we were on a panel together. Leka, great to see you, and welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Jonathan. I am so excited to be here.
Yeah, so am I.
This has been a long time coming.
I know. And I was glad that we connected at BP so we could that was big for me because I hadn't met everybody in person. So it was nice to kind of put all the faces to the names, even though we see each other all over social. Oh, so I'm excited to have you. I want to get into your background, but I have to start here because I've just been watching it. You had a squatter recently. Tell us about that. And then we'll go backwards into how you got into this crazy stuff.
Yeah, so it's a funny story because I was getting my hair and makeup done for BP Con, and I was about to go introduce the whole event to 3,000 people. So I was about to go on stage, and then my property manager called me and said, hey, there's people living in one of your units. And when I went and talked to them, they said they had signed a lease with someone else, and now they're refusing to leave. And I was like, wait, what? That unit is the price on that unit is about $1 million. Our rent was $3,000 a month. And I was like, I'm not, it's not even the money, but I just don't want someone that is unlawful to be living there.
Yeah, of course.
And
but
so
when you first got the call, though, did you think that they maybe got scammed by one of those people who puts 100%. Up the listing? Yeah, right. That's 100%. What I would have thought. And we'll just work it out.
And then we were like, yeah, we'll just sign the lease with them. Like, what's the big deal, right?
Right.
But then I was like, okay, I'm about to hit the biggest stage of my life and I'm not going to deal with it today. So I pushed it to the side and then I finished BP Con. I went home and the next day I went out and met these people and they had not signed any lease and they had just broken the lock, moved in and had just started to take over the space. And when I met them, I was able to peek inside the house. They had ripped out all the carpets. They ripped out the door jambs. It was crazy what they were trying to do to this place that didn't belong to them. They were not, legally allowed to live there. They hadn't signed a lease with me. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to call the cops. And the cops said that this was a civil matter, not a criminal matter. And so they couldn't get involved.
Yeah. The one thing when I saw the first thing, I felt like they were so indignant about we signed a lease, we can be, was it already renovated when they were in there or you were still going to renovate it?
No, it was already renovated. And
what did they rip up the carpet for?
They said because their dogs peed on it.
Oh my gosh. They also did have a stripper pole in there, though, by the way, right?
They did. So the woman was on OnlyFans, and so once I was actually able to do a police. I was able to get
Yeah.
police on my side. We went and did a police raid on them. It was very fun. And then they like knocked down the door. They went inside. They handcuffed them, took them to jail. And I mean, a lot happened between that and
Yeah.
actually
Yeah.
getting them out. But then when I walked the house, there was a massive stripper pole.
Yeah. But it's weird though, because I think like I saw the news report and I know that like on social, I'm sure there were people on there saying things to you like, oh, well, you're just not, providing affordable housing. And it's like, wait a second. I own something. Somebody broke in, started living there and breaking everything. And you think that I'm being like a bad landlord. Did you get any weird feedback like that? Because I know I get weird stuff
I
like that all the
got
time.
a lot of feedback that says, serve you right. For investing in Seattle, investing in the West Coast, your landlord laws suck, and it's because of the people that you voted into power. And I disagree. It doesn't matter how we vote. It doesn't matter what the city is thinking or doing. The basic act of squatting is not allowed.
Of course.
We
It's a
don't
no-brainer.
vote people to go
Yeah.
murder people, but people get murdered. So like
It's
not
trespass.
Yeah, it's trespass, and it's criminal to do that. It's like a basic human right. Like you don't go take over someone else's property. That's it.
Yeah. And also then it is precluding somebody from lawfully getting that residence, which Seattle is a tough market to find a great deal on a nice house for a rental. That seemed like, a good price that could have got them in there. So going back to when you first thought of real estate, did you ever imagine that something like this could happen? Like I've dealt with squatters here and there, but it never exactly like that where you show up and have to talk to them and they're like, what, they think they live here?
Yeah. No, this is not something that I had planned for. A lot of things in real estate are things that you just don't plan for, that you just have to deal with it as they come up. And so, it's just one more thing that I've dealt with now and have better experience if it was to happen to me again. It's important to have the right insurance, right locks, right cameras, right attorneys. So better property managers.
Yeah, just to make sure. But so I know you were in the corporate world for a long time, but when was the first time that real estate came on your radar as something that might be either like maybe start as something on the side, but when did it first dawn on you like, wow, this is something that I want to do?
Yeah, so we ended up building our primary residence with the builder. We just bought a house in a development, and the builder gave us so much power to go change floor plans, pick out our finishes. That was kind of my first exposure to real estate.
Yeah.
But then, I was driving to work one day and I heard a radio ad for a flipping company. And I said, okay, what is that? What does a house flip even mean? That was like really like my first breakthrough moment, was figuring that out. And then as I started to research it, I was like, wow, I'm really interested in doing something like this.
Was it the kind of design part and then before the money? Like, were you thinking like real estate investing as money, or like, wow, I really like making houses look nice?
The thing is, like, I never look at the money aspect of it. It doesn't drive me for some reason. What drives me is taking something from point A to point B and just drastically improving a situation. That could be a house, that could be a community, that could be a group, that could be an individual, like whatever it is, that is the aspect of life that just excites me. And so flipping a house really was all of that in one little project. And I think that's what excited me and in fact, the very first house that I flipped, I didn't make any money. And I was just in love with the process. Yeah. And I said, okay, I'm actually going to continue to do this because I enjoy the process.
Yeah.
So
when you did that first one, you were still at a corporate job. Were you thinking like, well, this is going to be good ancillary income, or I want to get out of my 9 to 5, or that still hadn't even happened yet? Like, when did that happen where you're like, wait, I don't want to do this, I want to do that all the time?
No, I actually bought my first house after I had quit my corporate job.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So I was in a very rigid corporate environment. I worked for Nordstrom Corporate, and unlike tech, you have to show up at work every day. You have to work from your desk, and you don't leave, until 5 p.m. every day. And so there was really no way for me to go and explore and build a company whilst still in my job, because I tried to do that.
Yeah.
I gave it a best shot. Like I tried to meet brokers and contractors and builders, and no one would meet me beyond 5 p.m. because
Yeah.
everybody had family and, their own lives. And so I was like, okay, if I want to do this successfully and give it my best shot, then I have to quit my job. And
Wow.
it
So
was a big
that's rare
step.
though. That's really rare. Like, so
Really
you
rare.
made the jump before you even really got started because you knew
Correct.
that that was the path that you wanted to do.
I had just set up my company as Corp. That's it.
Yeah.
And I had educated myself a ton while I was in my job, because that is something I could do after work.
Yeah.
I don't remember watching TV for a year. Like I just would go home and read real estate books because there was no podcast. This is 10 years ago.
Yeah.
No real groups, nothing virtual. And so everything was books, videos, and then just your local RIA and your REITs.
Yeah.
And so I try to get as much information from all of that. And then I said, okay, I think I'm ready to buy my first project, but I can't do that successfully unless I quit my 9 to 5. So I quit. And then within 3 months and a lot of hustling later, I went under contract on my first house.
Yeah, that was quick. I mean, when you were listening to things, do you remember a point where there was some book or something that you heard where you're like, okay, now this is all going to make sense, that kind of led to you knowing that it would be okay to leave your job?
Yeah, I did a program with Fortune Builders, and it was like a crash course on real estate investing.
Yeah.
And so I attended a few conferences and a few seminars, and I met people locally that were actually doing this. And so, but everything everyone said was, hey, 95% of the time you are going to fail. 95% of the time you're not going to make money. So I honestly don't know what really kept me
Yeah,
going,
that sounds terrible.
because I'm like, okay, there's such a high chance of failure. Like, what is the point? But at the same time, I was like, I think I have what it takes that maybe someone else doesn't.
Yeah.
And I've always been an entrepreneur. Like I started my first company when I was 18 back in India. And so I was like, just the thought of, okay, having to work for someone else and someone
Yeah.
else's time, that for me was just not something I was willing to do long term. And so I said, okay, how bad can it be? If I failed so badly that I, completely did not dislike it, then I would go back and find another corporate job. Like that was easy.
Right. That is a good parachute to have. I know, like, if you leave corporate, like, you're not banned from corporate if it doesn't work
Right.
out.
Exactly.
You still have a skill set that can go back. When did you know that you would never have to go back to corporate? How far along were you?
I think after I finished doing my first job, and just, even though I didn't make money, I was like, okay, I enjoyed this process so much that with all that experience that I have, I can actually go out and do something and build on that and actually make money. Because I saw, like, the other thing is I'm good at analyzing what the pain points were and where I probably made a mistake or what my opportunities were that I could learn from. And so just building on top of that, and then also finding better teams, better brokers, better companies to work with.
Yeah.
I think I knew that I had that piece. So I was like, okay, let me just give this my best shot and never look back. But now after 10 years, I'm like just grateful that, I don't like living life in regret. And I would have regretted not starting this when I did. So now looking back, I just feel really blessed to have gone on this journey, to have taken that chance on myself, and then for burning the boats entirely.
Yeah. I mean, but I think burning the boats is also something, like, if you, like, for people who do things like Fortune Builders or programs like that on the large scale, sometimes that's burning the boats for them because there's a cost associated and you have to live up to the cost. Have you found now over the 10 years, I always say this, like, I feel like there's a lot of like bad courses and stuff, but I don't think like the materials in them are probably all still good. And if anybody, no matter what they pay, just did what the courses say, you would probably be successful, even courses that maybe are kind of a little more, social media friendly. But have you found that there's just a lot of user error from other real estate investors, that like the tool, like
Yeah.
none of, like you and I, we're not reinventing the wheel. We're using
Yeah.
systems and things that other people came, get a house, fix a house, sell a house.
Sell a house, and then
Yeah.
when you find a problem, you have to just work itself, work through it. Like the squatter problem, the attorneys that we had hired from the property manager said it was going to take 6 to 9 months.
Yeah.
So like, that's the law. Okay, but that's not what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
I'm going to go find a damn good attorney that's going to actually move the needle quicker. And so I went out and I hired the best attorney for that. Someone that understood me, understood my situation, and was willing to do what it took to help me out. And I got them out in 3 weeks. So it's like, okay, do you have what it takes to really move the needle? And the needle may move an inch one day, a centimeter another day, but as long as it continues to move, I think that is 100% what you said. More often than not, it is user error. Like people give up,
Yeah, because it's harder than they think. People think like, oh, investing's cool. I'm just going to like hang out on yachts, and like flipping's no big deal. Contractors are reliable. Like they have no idea. For me, like being a first-time flipper should be the scariest thing for people, and they just don't seem scared enough to me. I want people to take action, but like if someone came to you and said like, I don't have a ton of money, but I want to do a flip. I know nothing about repair costs, dealing with contractors. I mean, is that something you'd say like, yeah, let's, do it? It's just like, there's so many things that go wrong.
I honestly, like my biggest feedback to people, like someone that wants to truly be mentored or coached or just come to me for advice, is go partner with someone that knows what they're doing, get a good mentor to teach you, do a good one flip with them.
Yeah.
You can't bring the money, you can't bring the deal, then find other ways to add value. Yeah. And just say, I'll go to your property every day. I'll take photos. I'll drive the property. I'll meet with contractors. I'll go find you flooring, cabinets, tile, whatever it is. There's a million ways to get involved. Go do that.
Yeah.
You may have money, whatever it is, but just go do that, because that's going to just set you up for success.
I agree. I think like for somebody who's like doesn't have a ton of money and wants to learn about flipping, like being a gopher, like if someone was a gopher for me on a flip, I would give them a percentage of the profit, like a small percentage 100%. and pay. Like we all need that as flippers, because there's so many, loose ends going to get permits. Like that just needs to be done. Over your 10 years though, what do you think has been the hardest part just about flipping as a whole, whether something's changed or just over your history? What's the hardest part for just being a house flipper?
I think keeping the capital. Because it's like always, you make money and then you either reinvest it in real estate or you go buy a new flip. So I just feel like there's always like a dearth for more capital, which is not a bad thing. That means you're just doing more projects. Yeah. But I'm like constantly either putting it back into my rental portfolio or I'm going out and buying new projects, that I feel like I'm always trapped for liquid cash.
Yeah.
And I'm high net worth, like super high net worth. Yeah. Like, what's the point, right?
But there's a lot of balls in the air. But that's the thing. I think also the better you get at networking and the more people that the more deals come across your table.
Right.
And then you're like, okay, yeah, how do I figure out how to keep this going, but also be safe for my family and make sure that we're protected. Exactly. Obviously, these are all assets. So that's been something though that you've figured out, over the years on what the best way to do it is.
Yeah. There's a lot of, like, the one thing is, when I first started, right, I literally didn't have any money to keep reinvesting or to take chances. But now I've built my portfolio to the point where at least I have all of this equity that I can tap into. And yes, interest rates are super high. It's going to cost me more to even just get the capital out. But if I'm able to take that out and then pay off PITI on that, and instead of just interest-only payments, I'm still putting it back in my portfolio, but I'm still able to get all that equity out. So just, finding a really good financial analyst and a lender to understand your portfolio, and that can help you along the way to say, hey, this is very high equity, like you can take out 500K, or, this building's really not performing. I think you can sell it and then reinvest it into something else. So finding a really good asset manager and a lender and a tax person to constantly keep looking at your portfolio and coming up with new ways to help you set you up for future deals, future projects. I think that is huge.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. I found that a lot of investors, even myself in the past, like we're focused on one project, but we don't have like a team overlooking everything because not like just like real estate agents, barely any know anything about real estate investing. Barely any accountants are experts in real estate investing, and barely any
Mhm.
attorneys are experts in that. But then when you have them, and like you said, they can oversee your whole portfolio and say like, ooh, this one looks good to take some equity if you want to do, say, a short-term rental, like then you have the help. But if you don't have that, you're just going to be struggling on the tax end, which I've done
Exactly.
way too many times. Was that something that really helped you like grow and kind of formulate everything so you kind of know where to bring money from for each next deal?
Yeah. So basically, like before, I'd always have to raise capital. Today, I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, I have this building, I have a lot of equity here. So I can cross collateralize that. So I have a really good lender that does just that.
Yeah.
So, hey, you have 500K of net worth here. Let's take that out. And then you can use your own capital to go finance this deal. And then you either pay them off in a year or you roll the capital over to the next project. So, but it has to make sense. Like
Yeah.
these loans are high interest. So if you're not making that income to actually cover that cost, then you're failing in a way. So you have to constantly keep underwriting deals that are profitable that can actually make up for that interest loss.
Yeah. What was were the market dynamics for Seattle hard because it's just such a high price market, or were you able to like how quick was it for you to be able to figure out how to navigate that market as a whole? Just because I consider it like a high end market. Like many parts of California, San Francisco, things like that. Like you can't go and find an $80,000 flip. It's just not an
Look at the
option.
cost of my kitchen cabinet.
Yeah, exactly. So what was it like though, focusing on a high end area like that? And that
Yeah.
just means more to figure out, but in my opinion, more potential profit margin in there if you can foot the bills.
I was fortunate to start in this market. And so when I started, an average deal cost was about 500K.
Mm,
So you buy the flip for 350, 300, you put in 150, maybe not 500, maybe 6, 700.
yeah.
And then because there's holding costs, there's buying costs, all of that. But today that average cost is more like a million to a
Yeah.
million one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also just real estate is super healthy here because we don't have enough inventory
Yeah.
and we have solid, well qualified buyers. So just I know every market is, I mean, every few months the market does change. Amazon one year decided that they were going to move to Austin or somewhere else, and so honestly our market just tanked because people
Yeah.
stopped buying homes over here. But if you have the ability to just hold, right, that holding power, I think you're in a better position to handle market dynamics. In 90% of the markets since I've started, I'm able to sell my flip for over asking within 3 to 4 days of listing it.
Yeah.
This year, January, February, March, where interest rates were super high, I sold two of my flips for 100K over ask and about 150 to 175K over the original anticipated after repair value.
Yeah.
And so I'm able to do that because I can look at the neighborhood and just say, okay, hey, this is a product that's missing. And so if we provide that product, then we will have a buyer that will come buy this house.
Yeah.
And so that's what we did. So I think just knowing the market dynamics, and really having a solid team to stand behind that price and say, okay, we can get this price, no problem. And then you as a seller and a house flipper, you need to be so damn sure about the quality of your product,
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely.
just making sure that you're not hiring shoddy contractors to do the work. Everyone's licensed and bonded, getting necessary permits. I think those are the things that really help in
Yeah.
navigating any market.
I think two things have made it really hard for us who consider ourselves like good flippers who follow the rules. It's like one, the shows, because the shows make everything look like it costs,
So easy.
$100 for a full cabinets. Yeah, sure. And like always make
Yeah.
a profit. But then also the amount of people who got into the flip game who never should have been in the flip game, who do shoddy work, don't pull permits, pretend like stuff is done. So then people are coming to us with a flip product. And I always feel like when I have a flip on the market, they're like really nitpicking me. And I'm
Yeah.
like, I've literally have a list of everything I've done and all the people who've done it. You can contact all of them directly. Nobody has that, but they still have this thing like, oh, you're out to get me, or they're like mad at us because we're going to make money on a flip when we're providing something high up. Have you ran into that with people kind of like overly nitpicking your flips when you've been doing this a long time?
Yeah, absolutely. For example, like I buy properties from real estate brokers that, that the properties come with a list back, which means when I'm done with the flip, I sell it back with the broker that sold it to me.
That's a great strategy, by the way. I have friends who do that in San Diego.
Yeah.
I think it's a great strategy. So we'll talk about that as well. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I do that too. I'm a wholesaler and I sell deals too.
Yeah.
But what happens is sometimes that broker's probably sold a flip to someone that hasn't done a good job. And so suddenly if that broker is the one that's listing your property, it's like all this negativity because they're like, oh, if that broker is listing it, then it's just a shoddy flip. But no, because I pulled permits, did everything to code, and it's a damn good, remodel. So sometimes, it's easy if the house is sitting on the market for a long time or something, it's not selling as quickly. It could be market timing, could be something else. It's easy to pinpoint and, come up with those different excuses. But ultimately, it just could be the house or something you put in the house that wasn't the selling factor.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like if real estate overall was a little bit more transparent, it would be much easier for everybody.
Yeah.
Because like I just disclose everything, like no problem. If I do structural repairs, I did structural repairs. I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you the permits. But like I've also, with other buyers, I'm looking at houses and I'm like, I mean, come on, like you can see all of the issues there.
Exactly. And I think being a house flipper and being in construction, you can point those issues out very fast.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's great because it also, like, when you know the repair costs and you know what's really wrong, I feel like, I wonder if this happened to you. Like during the pandemic, I found that people got so desperate that we're still looking when rates were still really good, that there were first-time home buyers looking at clearly investor properties. And I would listen to them say, oh, we can fix this up. And I'm like, are you crazy? This needs like 150 and it needs like a structural and there's mold there. And the agents, you can hear the conversation. So like it was much harder for me as a flipper to buy because first time home buyers were buying dumps because they were desperate. There was nothing on the market. And I'm like worried they're going to be in trouble. They're going to spend twice as much, on a rehab because they don't know the numbers. Their agent doesn't know the numbers. Was it slower for acquisitions during that time? Or do you still have enough contacts? Yeah.
It was because people weren't really listing their properties and no one was door knocking or, actually finding deals off market. Yeah. So it was hard. But also I think I pivoted because I didn't know what the market was going to do in a year. And so I just stopped doing flips. And instead I started focusing on building a rental portfolio.
Yeah.
So I just started buying properties, fixing them up and holding them as rentals.
Yeah. Single families or multi as well?
Multi, like 4 plexes, triplexes. I bought an office building.
Oh, nice.
A 7-unit office building. So yeah, that's pretty much.
Yeah, I personally like the 4 and under because it's still a residential product and not commercial. And I feel like it's just a little bit less on the management end. Like you don't need an on-site super for 3 units as opposed to like the more units. Hey, it's Jonathan. This is just a brief interlude to talk to you about Deal Machine. Listen, I've used Deal Machine and I was crushing it with my Concerned Citizen postcard on Deal Machine. You can look that video up on my YouTube and find out how I did it. It works. Deal Machine works. I've had David Leka, the CEO, on the podcast. So if you want a free trial of Deal Machine, the elite Driving for Dollars app, and I'm telling you, it works if you use it correctly, you can go to my link at bit.ly/Zen Deal Machine. Now, bit.ly is bit.ly/Zen Deal Machine. It's free and you'll be up and running in 2 minutes, and then you can figure out if you want to keep it. Let's get back to the show. So how have you found, doing kind of multifamily ownership and tenancies compared to flipping where there's no tenants, you turn it out, sell it, you're all done, got to figure out what to do with the profits?
Yeah. I think if you have a really good property manager, then that can help solve that. Then it's great. I mean, I like just, especially my market is an appreciating market, and the
Yeah.
way that I buy my property is always distressed. So because it's distressed and because I fix it up, I force the equity. So it's appreciating faster, but
Yeah.
also because it's distressed and I put money to fix it up, that amount is always lesser than if I bought the property turnkey, which
Yeah.
means that I'm able to cash flow. So luckily, and given the interest rates at that time, I'm really able to cash flow. And so luckily I still have those properties that just cash flow. Whereas buying it today is a whole other ball game. Like you have to do something drastic to really bring in the money. So rent by room or Airbnb, or midterm rentals. These are just strategies to, I think, increase that rental income. But yeah, I feel like a rental portfolio is okay as long as you have a really good property manager.
Yeah. And because of the density in Seattle, I've seen that I guess ADUs are becoming more popular. I know you were working on one as well. So tell us about that a little. Is that something that's kind of trending up? I see it across the country, definitely trending
Yeah,
up for people looking for extra spaces for ADU. But in larger cities, there's different rules. I had Sean DeMartle on about San Diego, and they have specific rules where it's people are building, 3, 4 units in the back or more. Are you guys seeing that in Seattle with opportunities as there's just not a lot of like raw land to build on?
right. Yeah, they removed single family zoning, which means every city that had single family zoning can now build up to 4 units on their lot as long as the lot is big enough. And I think the minimum lot size to put an ADU or a DADU is 3,200 square feet.
Oh, okay. That's not
So it's
bad.
a small lot,
Yeah.
but as long as there's space in the back, then you can actually put another structure in there. And yeah, that's something that I'm actively, working on. I have 2 dadu projects in the pipeline right now, and I'm looking to buy more. It's also something you want to be careful about, because if there's so many people like that start building these,
Yeah.
then you can overbuild them and then won't have enough buyer pool to actually buy them.
Yeah.
So anytime that happens, like I'm always, trying to balance out my portfolio where I'm doing like one large single family flip and I'm just making it super luxury, 2,700 square feet, but it's like for a family,
Right.
not for someone that wants to rent out their backyard or, their garage unit, but this is for a family that has like 2 kids, 3 kids, one's in college. He wants his own basement unit. So I'm always looking at versatility and saying, okay, how can we position our property so multiple users can buy it?
Yeah. I mean, that's just smart investment principle. And when municipalities make something available for you, make it easier to build more, then it's smart to go down. But yeah, I do have a little bit of worry that like at some point they'll be like, wait, well, we didn't realize everybody was going to start to build these,
Yeah,
extra units in the back. But of course, they still have to comply with the setbacks and parking
exactly.
rules. So as long as that's in place, it should be okay that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So are you planning on going anything bigger, like into apartments and syndications and thing like that? Or are you really comfortable in this residential space? I see you're already smiling, so it's going to have to be like a yes.
I have actually done syndications before. So I have a fund of funds. I have a multifamily syndication. So I've done it. It's not my favorite. It's
Yeah.
not, it doesn't make you very flexible or pivotable. So, and especially in this lending environment, unless we find a really good seller financed, 30, 40 unit apartment building, I
Yeah.
just not interested in doing that.
Yeah.
I just think you can make the same, if not more money, just doing residential or smaller multis. And then you don't have 30 investors, you just
Yeah.
one person.
Yeah.
So
It's hard to, yeah, I feel like it's hard to do syndication as not your thing. Because
yeah,
it's so much upkeep with the investors that are involved that like if that's not your main thing, it's really hard to manage. In
yeah,
terms of the commercial building that you bought, is that where the event space that you have is? Is it in
yes,
that building? Yeah, see, that's a great idea. That's what I've always thought about. Whenever I think of mixed use or commercial, I think like, well, how can I use some of this as well to create maybe a business that I wanted? So tell us how that came, because I think that's just a smart use of an investment. And tell us what else is in that building.
yeah. So that's a 7 unit office building. I bought it super distressed. I put in about $500,000 in fixing it up. I got it for a really good deal. I actually bought it from my friend James Daynard.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Nice. He was your co-host at
he was my
BPCon. Yeah.
co-host. Yeah. So he and I worked really hard. Yeah, we go back like 10 years and I bought 90% of my deals from him.
But that's what Tarl said too. And I was talking to Tarl recently, and it's like, oh, because that was the Seattle crew then. That was you guys all out there at the same time.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like really important, I think, also to find that crew that you trust. And James's crew, like his acquisition brokers, his listing brokers, are just people like, I consider family.
Yeah.
And we've worked for such a long time, and we have this good like unity of sorts going on. So it's really fun to be in the space and also find good deals and continue to keep working with each other. So I bought this office building, and it's a 7-unit building. It's currently rented out to 5 different tenants. And then there's 2 spaces which we're using as event space ourselves.
Yeah.
And I host my real estate meetups over there, like other community events. So it's really fun.
Yeah. And a great way to keep the community involved so real estate gets bigger instead of just the investment. If you're doing events, then you're bringing more people there. You can host whatever you want when you own it, which I think is great as well. You can do charitable things, everything. It's part of the great thing about real estate that I think people miss is the actual usability of it. They're always thinking, like, I always say that with short-term rentals, like, you can use them too. That's why you get them. So you can go on vacation and not have to go to a hotel or pay for something.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's really, does that like commercial, that type of thing interest you going further the way that it's gone so far, or?
Yeah, I mean, the only reason I bought this building was because it's on the same street as Facebook and Amazon and Apple. Yeah. And so the location was fantastic, and there's nothing like it on that street anymore. So I just wanted to buy this as a legacy property to just in the family. But yeah, I'll do it again as long as I can find some really innovative uses for the property. Then yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's important. I mean, it seems like you're open, though, to all the things you stay focused on, but you're not afraid to try something else. For newer investors, like, how would you counsel them when they're, they don't really know which area they want to go in? Yeah. Of course, we're both saying, like, please don't try to be a flipper right away, like, learn some stuff first. Yeah. But where would you point a new investor, like, in this market? They come to you, they show up at a meetup, which I want to talk about also, and they're like, I've done a lot of research. I've read the books. I'm on the podcast, I'm meeting people, but I just don't know where to get started. What do you think, like right now, where someone would be best served to get started?
I love that question so much.
Let's help them. Yeah, let's help them get going. Fun. Yeah.
I think if you're a brand new investor, you start by educating yourself on all the things real estate, like all the different asset classes, everything you could be doing, every which way you could be acquiring property. Go learn about seller financing, subject to lease options, see how you can hold long-term rentals, how you can actually do a fix and flip, and then find really good mentors and focus on one thing. Like when I first started, I could have become a real estate broker and an investor and a wholesaler, but I decided I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to be a wholesaler. I'm not going to be a broker. I'm going to hire these people. But what I'm going to get really good at is flipping a house, because I came with zero construction knowledge. Like, I didn't know that plumbing, electrical came before drywall. I didn't know that, I've asked really stupid questions, but that's how I was able to learn. And after I did flip number 30, I said, okay, I am really good at this. I'm going to now go and be a real estate broker because I want to be able to go in and out of homes as I please.
Yeah.
Only reason I got my license. And that was back in 2017. And I think I've sold about 40 million in real estate since. Yeah. And it's all just been friends, referrals. Like I don't even remember on social media saying I'm a real estate broker.
Yeah.
So I just, I try to add on though different income streams as I go, but always start with one and get really so good at it.
Yeah.
What is going on, Jonathan? What is happening?
Yeah. This is so funny. I live really close to the volunteer fire department, so I don't know why they don't use a text thing. But when I moved in, this is good for people too, because when I moved in, I just never heard it. And then I moved in and I was like, wait, what the hell is this? It happens like 3 or 4 times a day. Like, I don't know why they can't like upgrade to a service, but no, it's they it's probably lunchtime or something. I don't know. It's over. It's over though. Yeah. The meetups have been really important to you as well, because I know you host a meetup, but I also know just from talking to Tarl and know from what James has done that those Seattle meetups have been really important to a lot of investors. So tell us about those and how much you think they help other investors in the connectivity, building relationships,
Yeah.
networking, and then later deal flow, like you said before.
I started my meetups in 2018. That's how many years now? Almost 6 years ago. And I barely missed a month.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So we host them in person. Over COVID, it went virtual, and I hosted a meetup every single month. Like, no matter what was going on, I hosted a meetup. I
Yeah.
got amazing speakers to come speak to my community
Yeah.
because we were all home and because everything was virtual back then. Then once, things started to open up, we went back to being in person, and now I host two meetups actually at my event space. One is a meetup that is dedicated to techies, doctors, to learn about real estate investing.
Yeah. Great.
It's more, how can you passively invest while having a W-2,
Yeah. Demanding job. Yeah.
a demanding
Yeah.
W-2, but then you're high net worth, so you should invest in more than stock. And
Please.
so,
Yeah.
yeah, so this meetup is dedicated to someone like that. The second meetup is my real estate meetup, where it's for the real estate community. We all come in, we network, we have killer speakers and panels, and really it's about what's going on in the city today or in the state. How do you invest within the state? How do you invest out of state? What are some laws and rules and regulations that are being placed on different kinds of asset classes today? And then it's just also an opportunity to network with other individuals. Like, I've seen deals being done
Yeah.
in front of me.
Yeah.
I have raised capital through the meetups. I have found deals through the meetups. I found an amazing community and also helped create a community.
Yeah.
But
I
through
think that feels good, because we both had the same feeling when I asked you the question, like, wow, this can really help someone. Have you felt like, to me, it's so rewarding. That's why I like podcasts, because like we could
yeah,
have this discussion. Someone could be driving in their car in like, Alabama, listen to it. We'll never meet them, never even hear from them, but it maybe they'll hear something that you said that will change the way they look at it. And
yeah,
we may never know, but impact is really what I think a lot of us are after, who like to do the meetups and go to them. I mean, have you seen people's, I always ask this because I think like I do meetups as well. And I've seen people's eyes change at a meetup where it like just clicks in because they're finally around other people. Like I love podcasts and books, but you can really only get so far. It's very hard to take action without somebody else who's taken action right before you. And then you can see them and say like, oh, look, that person over there, they have 3 kids and they just did 7 deals last year. And like, what?
yeah,
There's kind of like that closeness where you're like, wait, this isn't that hard. Like, we just need more examples of how to do it.
exactly.
Yeah. Have you seen that happen? I mean, now it's been so long since 2018. There's probably so many deals that have happened. But if you think back to the beginning, like of one of these people who now has like 20 units, their first meetup, they're probably, all scared coming in, and that can change really quickly.
I've seen that happen so often. I've literally introduced people to people and said, you two need to be friends. You two need to go get
Yeah.
coffee or lunch or something. Because if you connect, I know big things will happen for both of you. So just, I've seen that. I've seen people grow. I had a guy that was coming to the meetup, and he has 4 kids. He wants to do a house hack. He's like, I don't know where to start. And then I pointed him towards James Dana's Project RE.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
said, go get started, go learn. And now he's, about to go flip a house and go do a house hack. And like, it just makes me so happy to see these people either buy real estate for themselves or invest in real estate and then be able to sell it for a profit. Like, it's just really incredible what a meetup can do.
Yeah. I used to kind of like be down on the fact that there's so many gurus out there. And then I changed to something that we talked about before. And it goes to what you just said, because I feel like you're really after the community. So no
Correct.
matter what you've spent on a thing, if you don't put your all into it, you're not going to get anything back. So if you did spend up on something, like just make the connections. That's what the people are there
Exactly.
for. Those connections can take you like 10 years into the future, of just
Yeah.
buying deals from each other, sharing deals. And I think what people don't realize at the beginning is that real estate investors love to help each other.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
it's the best.
The
It's the
best.
best. I mean, and the further you go where you're just building relationships, the less you have to worry about, scouring the MLS or looking at every, wholesale email, which really is like third helpings anyway. And you just
Exactly.
know you'll get a call. Like James will call you and say, like, hey, I have this office building. I don't want it. Are you interested? You're like,
Yeah.
yes, actually I am.
Yeah, exactly. And it's incredible. Like the funny thing is, in the beginning, we would not even charge for the meetup.
Yeah.
Then we said, okay, let's charge them a very nominal amount. But now I'm like, no, I'm actually going to charge them a lot of money because I want the people to show up, be serious about showing up and then taking action.
Yeah.
And that's one way to make them take action is, hey, it's going to cost you 50 or $75 to come to this meetup. It's a
Yeah.
2-hour meetup, but you got to give it your all.
I love it.
And people love it.
But you made the point perfectly, and it's kind of what I've done as well. Is like, I want to give away so much for free and still give stuff away for free.
Oh,
But
yeah, for
there's
sure.
going to become a point where a lot of us say, like, well, listen, this class is going to cost. Like you talked about Project RE, there's a cost to that. It's not cheap, but you're going to get great information. And I think that you build up to that by giving out so much free information over the years that when you go to make an ask, no one's like, well, oh, that's
Exactly.
unusual. It's like you've earned it, and you
Exactly.
continue to earn it by, doing things like, we were both at BP Con
Yeah.
talking. You were obviously hosting the event, so you're very busy. But like, if you remember our panel, me, you, Henry, Devon, and Anson, and like there was standing room only in there, and it's like you look out and you're like, well, I mean, we're not getting paid. Like, this is really going to
I
help
mean, wasn't
people.
ours like a 60-minute panel that turned out to
Yeah,
be a 120-minute panel?
yeah. Well, we wouldn't stop. We wouldn't stop talking. That was
We
our
wouldn't
fault.
stop asking us questions, and
Yeah,
we were
it's true.
giving you that information, and it's great. Like, how many people did we help educate that day?
Right. I mean, and I think that's what feels good. So even though people are, and I've talked about it before, there are a lot of, not necessarily great courses, but it's really about what you put into it. You can read a
Right.
book and take action, but it's people that are going to help you take action. And I was actually shocked. That was the first time I was at BPCon, and I was like, wow, like that's like a
Yeah.
very solid event. You guys did a great job as hosts because it's a lot, but there's so many breakout sessions. I feel like
Yeah.
for any level of investor, if you show up on that, you're going to leave that and you're going to take like massive action, and you're going to leave with so many contacts of other people who just want to do the same things. Maybe they're a little below you, they're a little above you. So you can
Right.
help people and then learn from people. And that's what, like your meetups are so great because you have people at every level,
Yeah.
2 units, 3 units want to learn. So you can help by giving people advice and also learn from the people who've done more deals, because there's always someone who's done more deals. But I mean,
Morning.
just take
Absolutely.
James. He's hard to beat. He can't stop. Taro was the same. He's like, oh, I've done this many flips. I'm like, okay, well, I feel bad about myself, but yeah,
Yeah.
it's a lot.
Exactly.
All right. Leka, where's the best place for people to find you? Is it on your Instagram or website?
Yeah, I have an Instagram and a LinkedIn. Those are the two best places. Both are just my first and last name, Leka Devatha. And you should be able to find me.
Yeah. On Instagram, there is an underscore, but if you put in Leka's name,
Yeah,
you will find her.
you'll
Just
find it. Yeah.
look for the one with all the followers. Awesome. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure. And your website, that is rehabithomes.com, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
rehabithomes.com.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I'm so glad we finally got this done, and it was great
Me
that I'm
too.
glad that I finally met you, because most of these I haven't met somebody, but it was nice to do that panel with you and now
You
get
were
you on the
actually my
show.
favorite part of that panel because I was like, oh my God, Jonathan, you are like a wealth of knowledge. You've done
Oh,
so
thanks.
much. And it's just such good information. Like, I'm like, where have you been all my life?
Oh, well, good. Well, I'm sure we'll stay in touch. But I mean, one thing that I found, because I felt the same, it's like every time one of us talked, and then even the questions, you're like, that's a great question. People are there to really learn. And that's what I think is important about what you said about your meetup. Like, at some point, we're going to charge X amount. So you have a little bit in the coffer to say, like, I'm going to bring my best game to this. And I felt like when we were doing that panel, like, we're bringing our best, but then like everyone in the audience is also bringing their best.
Bringing your best.
They're listening, and you watch them taking notes, and you're like, this, I'm making a difference, whatever it is. I'm making something happen. And I think that feels really good. So yeah, I appreciate your time, and I look forward to many more conversations along the way.
Me too. Well, thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. All right. That was Leka Devatha. I'm Jonathan Green. We'll see you next episode. I hope you enjoyed that episode of Zen and the Art of Real Estate Investing with me, Jonathan Green. And I just want to remind you, and this is always an uncomfortable part, I don't want you to think that I'm begging for you to like, subscribe, follow, do whatever you have to do for the podcast, leave a 5-star review. But if you like the podcast and you think it adds value in the real estate investing sphere, then just do me a personal favor. Like the podcast, follow it, share it when you can with your friends, and be so kind as to write a 5-star review if you believe it deserves a 5-star review up against what else is out there. I would really appreciate it, and I hope you keep listening.